I actually took some journalism courses when I was in college. I don't like to brag about it. But now, I heard this now, have you ever heard this saying? They say that journalism is printing something that someone doesn't want printed. Everything else is public relations.
Yep.
Have you ever heard that
Yeah,
saying?
I heard that, yep.
So so if you read the media today, read the mainstream news media, it's not that. It's the opposite of that. It's how can I write a story that doesn't lose me access, that doesn't piss someone off? You know, Nancy Reagan died, a week or two ago, and Tom Brokaw was on Morning Blowjob, and he brought a picture of framed picture. One time when Ronald Reagan was in the White House, he wrote an article about how Ronald Reagan, they kept trying to push this story that Ronald Reagan was a poor boy. When he got out of college, he was poor, and Tom Brokaw countered it with facts. No, he wasn't. He was one of the few guys actually to go to college in those days, and he got a great paying job right out of college, and then he went on to an acting career. So he wrote this, right, pushing back against the White House narrative, and he got a phone call from the chief of staff saying, hey, you better stay away from the White House for a while because Nancy's really pissed off at you. So you better not come around. For 2 months, he didn't go to the White House. And then when he gets invited to a state dinner, isn't that what journalists should have happen? They should be invited to tuxedo dinners. So and they go, hey, what are you going to say to Nancy on the receiving line? And this was a big crisis. What a journalist was going to say to the first lady about a truthful story he wrote.
Wow.
And so when he gets up to Nancy Reagan, he says, Nancy, back to square one. And there was a picture of that. Nancy took a picture, had her assistant frame it. She wrote, Tom, back to square one. He brought it on Morning Joe that next day after she died, that framed picture to show, look, access means more than anything to me. And this is look, oh, I got this instead of a real journalistic integrity spine. It's unbelievable. Yeah. He didn't realize that was what he was doing was revealing the sad state of journalism 30 years ago. It's almost worse. So Tom Brokaw is one of the champions. He was a pioneer of access journalism. And if you wonder how Luke Russert happened, it's because Tom Brokaw's his real dad.
There's one more thing that I think people don't really think of. You know, I like Jake Tapper, for example. Mm-hmm. But if I had the luxury of interviewing Donald Trump on the Young Turks, and I asked a question about the KKK, and Donald Trump played dumb, I'd end the interview. Because as a journalist, I'm not giving a platform to someone demagoguing racism. And I think at a certain point, you know, if my boss was Jeff Zucker or my boss was Cenk Uygur and I'm risking getting fired by doing that, so be it. Because that's how you normalize racism. By asking a question about the KKK, the candidate saying, oh, I don't know anything about the KKK, you push back very tepidly and then you move on. Yeah. That's not what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to say, look, hey, you're right, Jordan. Donald Trump, you're telling me you don't know who the KKK is? I mean, if you really, with a straight face, can say that, I've got to end the interview because you're obviously lying.
Yeah.
Right? But they would never say that because they're like, no, that would offend people and that wouldn't be neutral. You're not supposed to be neutral.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be objective. And any grown-up, let alone someone running for president who claims they don't know what the KKK is obviously objectively lying. Otherwise, you have to say, all right, well, have you disqualified yourself here by admitting that you know nothing? You know nothing about America, that you wouldn't know what the Ku Klux Klan is, right? But he's not going to say that because then he won't have him back on. And look at what's happening now. NPR, as we reported here, is doing basically war training for the reporters in order to go to Trump rallies. Well, that in a sense has also normalized it too. Yeah. Well, okay, now if reporters are getting beat up at Trump rallies, let's just learn Taekwondo and go back in. No, let's not do that. Let's fight back. I don't mean physically, I mean by doing journalism.
Yeah, I remember, look, you were talking about journalism school, and I remember what I learned in journalism school that kept me going with my education there. It was learning about muckrakers. And muckrakers held these businesses accountable for their actions. And that excited me. And I thought that's what journalism was about. And I remember graduating and realizing, oh shit, that's not what journalism is about anymore. It is about access quite a bit. And, you know, just to share a quick story, look, my manager is an awesome guy, right? And he wants nothing but the best for me. And he went out of his way to develop some sort of relationship between me and Hillary Clinton because he really wanted me to do a one-on-one interview with her. And he sat down with me and he told me, look, I'm never going to tell you how to report your stories or what you can and can't do. But if you want this one-on-one interview, it's unlikely to happen if you're so openly critical of her. And I was like, okay, great. So he got me invited to one of her fundraisers in LA. I met her, shook her hand. She was very nice to me. And then the next day, I published something on Raw Story that was super critical of her. And of course, I didn't get the interview, right? But to me, I don't think that my value or my credibility is based on how many big names I interview. I think my value and my credibility is based on whether or not I'm able to report the facts and the truth to the audience, right? Despite how much that's going to impact me negatively in the future. So I don't care. I mean, I think it would speak volumes of Hillary Clinton if she sat down and did an interview with me. It would give her an opportunity to defend herself. But if she's not brave enough to do that, well, that's on her. That's not on me.
And look, at this point, given the size of our audience and honestly their age, the fact that no other news organization reaches young people anywhere near the scale that we do, you don't want to reach them. That's your problem, not our problem. Okay? So you don't want to come on the show? Your loss. How else are you going to reach 35-year-olds and below by going on television? They don't even own a TV set. So if you want to reach young voters, you play by our rules. And our rules are old school journalism, okay? We hold you to account. If you don't like it, that's a sad day for you.